Okay, so for this week's guitar lesson, we have kind of two goals that we're going to be working towards. One is improving speed and accuracy as you play. And that's that synchronization between your left and right hand. As your right hand does this, your left hand does this. And it's working on that can make you a much better player. Even if your goal isn't to be a fast player, you really got to do that just for the accuracy part. You'll make less mistakes as you get more comfortable with that. And so here's the good news. You can do this at any age. It doesn't matter how long you've been playing guitar or how old you are. You can make gains on this if you work on it. And I want to give you an exercise or a little composition to work towards. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, I'm 51 years old. I started playing guitar when I was 15, and I've made some major gains just in the last few years by working on some of these like Doc Watson songs. You know, I've been working on like the Black Mountain Rag and that kind of thing, trying to sound like him and trying to do what he does. But here's the thing that always tripped me up on those is there would be these long runs where I would start them and I could kind of do it and then I would fall apart. So I wrote the composition this week with that in mind, knowing that happened. So there's a few little bursts where there's, you know, little runs, but then they sort of end and you go back to strumming a chord. So I've got your back on this. So you can do this no matter what age you are. You can make some gains. So we're going to talk about everything that I played in the intro. We're going to break all that down. That's the second goal, is learning how to play the song. So it's a lot more fun to do that than to do these the little fret exercises that I see where people just kind of go through that. You'll lose your motivation if you're trying to do it that way. Work towards a song. It gives you something you can perform and a goal. And so we've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll go through the first half of that composition. If you'd like to join us for part two and download the tablature for both parts and also access the on-screen tab viewer, you can get all of those extras by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP590. Okay, let me just mention this left-right hand thing. This is sort of behind it all when you're playing this. It's called alternate picking, and you're alternate picking meaning you start with a downstroke and then you do an upstroke. Down, up, down, up. And it doesn't matter if you're on one string or you're going across strings. You're still doing down-up motion. And so the first thing I want you to do is let's just get the C major scale. So this song we're going to be playing is in the key of C, and it's really three chords. It's actually four chords. We'll talk about the chords in just a second. But let's just look at this scale. Now here's the good news: is there's really just one scale that's used for all those little licks. It's the C major scale. And a lot of bluegrass playing is just doing clever things with a basic scale like that. So instead of just going like right up the scale, you do something like, right? So it's just stepping down a note in the scale, going up, stepping down a note in the scale. It's like folding the scale, kind of. If you took a straight path, you just play straight up the scale. That's a boring route. It's much more scenic to go, right? You're still getting from point A to point B, but you're taking the scenic route. That's a good analogy. I'm gonna have to remember that. You'll start to see those. Just kind of keep that in mind as we get into this. Let's look at the C major scale in first position here. I'm gonna play my C chord. You know how to play a C chord. So we're gonna start on this low C note, third fret, fifth string, and we're gonna alternate pick this. So you're gonna pick, we're gonna start with a downstroke, all right? So down, and then we're gonna go up on the open fourth string, and then watch this. Second fret, third fret, we're gonna do downstroke on the open third string, upstroke on the second fret, and then down on the open second string, and then an up on the first fret, second string. Now notice we ended with an up. We started with a down, we ended with an up. So it goes like this. That would be a great first thing to just start practicing, just to get that and get it fluid. You know, you can even set a metronome to do it. You could do slow. But you don't want to just, you know, do downstrokes to do that. You're cheating when you do that. You'll never get the speed up. You got to do the alternate thing. So we have. So now let's go back down the scale. So we're going to go start with a downstroke, because remember our last note was an upstroke. So it goes like this. So it ends with a downstroke. So now you can practice going up and down that C major scale in first position like this. Right? So that's just a good sort of like exercise just to get that. And plus you need to get that C major scale in first position because the notes we're going to be playing kind of come out of that. Now let's talk about the chords in this. That's just sort of like, that's how alternate picking works basically. That's it. So the chords in this, the song's in the key of C, and it's really a 1, 4, 5. C is your 1 chord, F is your 4 chord, G is your 5 chord. With the exception of 1 chord, I threw in a 3 chord, which would normally be, in the key of C, would be an E minor. Your 3 chord is a minor. Your 2, your 3, and your 6 chords are always minor. But you can break those rules. You do not have to do that. If you're following the circle of fifths, yes, to be proper or whatever, yes, it needs to be a minor. But in these sort of ragtime songs, your 3 is often major, just to throw a little twist in there. And so here's what it sounds like. So here's the structure. There's the 1 chord, the C. Now watch this. Then it goes to the E. Kind of unexpected, right? And then it goes to the F, which is your 4 chord. Stays on the F. We go back to the 1. Stay there. Then it goes to the 5, which is my G. And then back to my C. So it's just kind of fun to work in that little E chord. Now, I did not come up with, there's a million songs that have this type of progression in it. But take a song and throw in a 2 chord, but make it major, or throw in a 6 chord and make it major. Just see what happens. It's not going to hurt nobody. You don't have to tell anybody. You can just do it. See what happens, and you'll hear that sound that you'll hear. You hear in ragtime a lot. That's at least the best way I can think of to describe it. It sounds like an old piano ragtime kind of vibe, Scott Joplin or something. Anyway, those are the chords we're going to be working off of. Let's listen to this first part, and we'll talk about what's going on. So I started by strumming the chord, which is a C chord, and we're going to be in this area here. Now you know the C major scale in this area, so watch this. This is the first little part. So I started with that open D string, the open 4th string, and then I played 1st fret. Now I know that's not in the scale, but just bear with me. 1st fret, 4th string, and then the 2nd fret on the 4th string. Now why did I play that note? It's a chromatic note. So if I'm playing up the scale, like that, right? Those are the notes that are correct in that scale. I can play any of those notes around that. And those work as passing tones. Now you can't land on those notes because it's going to sound wrong, but as long as they're passing tones, they're going to work. So using that logic, any note in music can be correct. There are no bad notes. It's the note you play after that note that determines if it was correct or not. That's your little nugget of something to think about. There are no bad notes. It's as long as you put it in context, you can make it right. You can right the wrong. If you jump in at the wrong spot, you can make it right by what you play after. And so the good players, the ones that are great, they know how to do that really well. They know how to correct those mistakes. Actually, there are no mistakes if you think of it that way. It's kind of cool. Okay, so we've gotten that far into the song, right? Alternate pick that first 3 notes, and then strum the first, strings 4, 3, and 2 out of that C chord. I didn't even put my ring finger down. So if I slow that down, I played it like this. And then watch this. So there's the strum of that chord, the top part of the chord, and then we're going to play it again with an upstroke. And then I put my middle finger down on that 2nd fret 3rd string. That's one of the notes in the scale. So we have, and then after that it's this little walk down. That's going right down the C major scale. Actually more of an arpeggio. But it's in that same position. So now notice the right hand though. What did you notice there? No alternate picking there. I'm just playing downstrokes for that. So that alternate picking thing doesn't always happen. It really only happens when you're doing those little runs, right? Those little 16th note bits. That's when you do that. Otherwise, if I'm doing something like that, it's a lot easier just to play downstrokes. So your brain kind of will know when to sort of switch it on and off, depending on if it's a fast run or not. I don't consider this a fast run, even though there's that little hammer-on pull-off thing. It's not a synchronization thing between the two hands. So playing strings 1 and 2 there with my index finger on the 1st fret, 2nd string, and then strings 2 and 3 with my middle finger on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. And then watch this. There's a hammer-on pull-off that happens on that 3rd string. I put my middle finger down that 2nd fret, and then I come down to the 2nd fret, 4th string, and then down to the 3rd fret, 5th string. So it's like this. And all of that is an embellishment off of my C chord in this position. Now that's pretty much a first position only lick. That's how I think of that. Yeah, just think of it as if you're playing a first position C, you've got that little thing. So after that, I just stayed on the C, and I gave it the old bluegrass strum there, the old with a bass line going. So I've got the 3rd fret, 5th string. You hit that, strum the chord. Then I take my ring finger and go to the 3rd fret, 6th string, hit that, and then strum the chord again. So you put them together, and you got this kind of thing. You got your bass player doing the alternate bass bits, and then you got the strums in between. So now the song is going to go to the E chord, and to get there from this C chord, I went like this. I love that. So I knew we were going to the E chord because I'd worked out the chord progression, and I was writing, I was just strumming the C. So it's like, what's a cool way to get into that E? And I did different versions, but I like this little walk up, and it's a chromatic walk up. It's literally each note getting you to the 3rd interval of your E chord. And that was the target note I was going for, which is the 1st fret, 3rd string. I was going for that note. So like, what's a clever way to get to that note? And there's all kinds of ways you could do it, but why not just walk it straight up? So we're gonna go 2nd, 3rd, 4th on the 4th string, open 3rd string, and then the 1st fret. And now my hand can fall into position to strum the E chord, right? So it goes. Now that's where we're gonna use this alternate picking thing again. So it's another little burst, but it's... So just practice doing that. Slow it down to whatever tempo you need to be able to do it. But remember, you're starting with a downstroke, and then you come up to that upstroke. So it's down, up, and then down, and then there's a down strum. Okay, so from this E chord, we have another little burst of notes that's going to get us to the F. So check this out. So let's look at these notes, and then I'll explain where they're coming from and all that. So we just played our E chord, right, with a downstroke. Now when we do this run, we're gonna hit that first string, that open E string, with an upstroke. Now so far when we've done these little runs, we've started with a downstroke. In this case, however, since we've already strummed and we did a downstroke with that E chord, we're just gonna complete the hand movement by doing an upstroke on that one string. To get us to the F. So it's alternate picked after that. So that first note is upstroke, and then we're gonna go to the 3rd fret, 2nd string, back to the open one, and then we're gonna do 1st fret, open on the 1st string, and then we're gonna go, so that's 3, 1, open on the 1st string. So far we have, and then we're gonna go 3rd fret, 1st fret on the 2nd string, open 2nd string, and then the last note there is the 3rd interval of my F chord. Notice I'm targeting those 3rd intervals. Those are great notes to land on. The 3rd interval and the first, the root, those are the perfect notes to land on. They're very stable. And then I can play my F, and I'm actually just playing a triad. Just the top three, you know, that's the full F. I don't need that, I just need this little bit of it. So from this E, I come to this F. Now that's gonna take some work to get that down. So just work on that slow. And then we can do another down stroke to strum the chord for that F. So against that E chord, when I played those notes, it has a very kind of weird sound, almost like a Middle Eastern sound. Now if I compare that to playing those same notes against my C chord, listen to this. Oh yeah, so those notes are just my C major scale. I was not changing scales to match that E chord. It's just one of those modal things that happens. It pulled it in a different direction by playing that chord. You know, but the notes that I was playing in that run came out of the C major scale. I'm staying with the key of the song. So after I played that F triad, I did another little run here that goes. So I like these little short runs like this. So all of these notes just represent my F chord, or this chord shape. I don't even care if it's an F. It's like these are like little notes that dance around this chord. So that's the sixth interval of the chord, by the way. So we're going to start with a downstroke with the right hand, 3rd fret, 2nd string, down to the 1st fret on the 2nd string, and then 1st fret on the 3rd string, and then we come to the 2nd fret, 3rd string. So it's, and then all the way down to the 3rd fret, 4th string. So it's like this, and then I can strum the chord. So just work on that. Now that's a great takeaway lick. If you walk away with nothing else, take that one lick idea and apply it to any time you're playing a chord out of the E shape. If you were playing something in G, you could go. Right? Isn't that cool? It's just, I love like ideas like that. I'll take that and I'll work that into everything going forward. All right, so then after that, I went like this. And all of that represents my F chord. It's actually like an F going to an F7. So it starts, we're gonna bar the first 2 strings there on the 1st fret, do a hammer onto the 3rd fret, 2nd string, upstroke on the 1st string, and then I'm gonna slide up to the 6th fret, 2nd string, which is that same note I just played. Right? I've just matched it on a different string. So now what I love about this is I just went into a different chord voicing basically. So this is my F chord using the E shape. Now I'm up here playing out of the F chord using the C shape. So that note right there represents that. Or you can think of it like the little D triad. You know, 1st position D chord, slide it up, and that's my F note. So then that makes this all make sense. If you're picturing this little D triad here, and you're just looking at strings 1 and 2, this harmonized 3rd, now you can see where these notes are coming from. And then I came down to this note. So that's my F, right? That's my F note. I walked it down 2 frets. That would be my flat 7. And you can hear that. When I played it against this note here, you can hear that I'm playing that flat 7, which is what makes it sound like an F7. And what I was picturing, if I'm just being very candid, I was picturing my F using this little D-shaped triad, and then the D7 shaped triad. That's where the light bulb goes off. Now you can see what I'm talking about, right? If we like compare that to 1st position D chord, D, D7. What makes that sound like a D7 is taking the root, your D, and dropping it down 2 frets to the flat 7. And you're doing that same exact thing up here. Now after that, structurally, the song would go back to a C. And so I played this. Let me show you this little run. This is a fun one to do. It's very sort of symmetrical. But we're going to start with a ring finger on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, and then slide up to the 5th fret. And then we're going to come to the 1st string and play 3rd, 5th, back to the 3rd. And then we're going to slide back down to the 3rd fret, 2nd string, and then come down to the 1st fret on the 2nd string. So you can see, this is what I mean by symmetrical. It's like there's a fret in between in both of these little areas here. And then we're going to come down to the 3rd string and play 2nd, open, and then 1st fret, 2nd string, that last C note. So we have... Now that's alternate picked as well. Started with a downstroke, even though there was a slide there, so I didn't go like this. It's just one pick, but then after this, it's alternate pick. You can see it's down, up, down, up, down. Now, where this comes from, this little run, remember I said we're representing our C chord at this point. So I was picturing my C chord down here, which is where we ended, but look at this. You've got your C chord, C triad, right here. It's the top part of your A shape, right? Here's my C chord. Using the A shape, here's the top part of that. Oh yeah, now you're seeing it, right? Now look at just strings 1 and 2. So when I play, that's where that's coming from. So let this be like a little embellishment idea that you can carry into anything going forward. So if you're playing a song that's got like an E chord in it, and here's my E chord using the A shape, right? Now you can play that little lick. And then come back into the C shape, right? Just like we did down here. Okay, so after I played that, then watch this, I played. This is playing the C major scale again, down in 1st position, but we're playing it in sort of a clever way, sort of folding the scale. So I just left my index finger down right there, and I did this with my middle finger. And this is alternate picked, down, up, down, up. Now we're gonna come down to the 4th string, play an upstroke, middle finger goes down on the 2nd fret, so we have... And we're going to play open 4th, and then we're going to come down to the 2nd fret 5th string with an upstroke, and then I'm going to resolve to that C chord there. So it's like this. And then I can strum the chord. Now you can get a lot of mileage out of that idea. So look at this. If I'm just strumming the chord, isn't that a nice little sort of fill lick? There's other variations you can go, right? That's another way I could have done it. Both ways I'm getting at this C note, right? That's the way I showed you, but you could also go, right? It's the same end result either way, but just different ways to sort of arrive at that destination. All right, so this is the point in the song where we get to the 5 chord, which is our G, which doesn't last very long. It's sort of a quick change to that 5 chord. And that's all I did really to represent that G chord, which is this. So notice I started that with an upstroke on that open 6th string, the lowest note. And then we're gonna alternate pick after that, which leads me to a downstroke. Now, why did I start that run with an upstroke? To get to that G note, because prior to that I had played a downstroke. So you're always alternating, right? Now here's the thing, you can take your head out of it at some point. All you have to remember is do this. Just keep your hand in motion and it'll start to work itself out. Right? So I walked up to the G. Now watch this. After that I went, That also represents a G, so I play the third interval of my G chord, right? That little B note. So, and notice I'm walking that up chromatically. Those are chromatic notes to get me there. Now, since there's a rest there, so I stopped on that G note. When I play the next note, I can do another downstroke. If it was still flowing, I wouldn't have time to do that. I'd have to alternate pick. But since there's a little bit of a break there, I can play another downstroke. That's how I think of it. So it's like taking a breath there. Now after that, I walked right up that C major scale. So this all represents my G, right? So we had the G note and the B note out of the G chord. Now after that, watch this. We're gonna do an upstroke on that 3rd fret 6th string, and then from here it's just alternate pick like this. You can see it's down, it starts with an upstroke. I'll keep the tab up on the screen. You can pause the video, in fact, to kind of work that out. But you can see I'm just walking right up. All these notes are just the C major scale with some chromatic notes in there. But just pay attention to what's going on there. It's just the C major scale, but we're landing on that C note. So how do we get there in sort of a clever way? You know, and that's the name of the game, is just trying to sort of figure out a clever way to get there. Instead of going a straight route would be, that's kind of boring. It's a straight line. It's much more interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna end the part 1 video right here. In the part 2 video, we're gonna go through the same chord structure, but we're gonna move up the fretboard and we're gonna work in some different things. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a comment and let me know that. If this has been a breakthrough or been helpful, I'm always appreciative when you leave a comment. Or if you've got a question about something, maybe I wasn't clear about something, you can leave a comment on that as well. And I do read all of them and I try and answer all of them. All right, we'll see you in part 2.